most group homes for recovery, they don't accept sex offenders. They're not allowed to. I'm in a neighborhood, and if there's playgrounds in a certain, or a school in a certain area, we just can't do that. It's a risk that most group homes can't take. There are places for them to go, but they're certified different. You get a lot of we think this is a good thing, and we want group homes to be here. We want group homes for people like this. We just don't want to see it.
Right. They don't want it in their neighborhood, which is, I think, one of the issues, because there is a county council member that lives in your neighborhood, right?
Yes. Yeah, there is, and it's a lot of times, I understand it. I do. I understand where you could have concern, but you also have to ask, like we talked about, in today's age, find me someone who is far removed from addiction of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not the case anymore, and it's not getting better; it's getting worse.
So where are you at with the house? Like, where are you at right now with what you're trying to do with the sober living home?
We're applying for. We went in the beginning of the month. We applied to have a zoning change from AG to AE. And what that will allow is for me to go for a special exemption. And when I go in for the special exemption, if I meet all the requirements by law, then I can get the special exemption. Once that zoning is done, I can apply with the state for a group home license. If I meet all their qualifications, that'll give me the license to be a certified group home for recovering men. What that lets me do is it gives me state oversight. It allows me to have, easier access to background checks, more regular drug testing, more stipulations and rules for the guys. Not only does it do that, it allows the guys to get more resources and help through the state upon leaving, easier access to therapy programs, drug programs for the guys. Instead of having to go out of the home and go somewhere, it allows people to come into the home and work with them there. So it's a win-win for the community as well as it is for them. This is, a lot of people have brought up in the meeting, well, is it a money thing? I own this home.
Right. You already are operating a sober living home, right? You are just trying to get things changed so you could get
the state takes no statute on rentals.
Right.
So how most operations go without a group home is I rent to my guys. I lease a room to my guys, just like you would anybody, right? It just so happens my circle is a community circle. I'm not a certified group home. So what I have to do is I have to rent. So there's eviction involved, things like that involved, which without the group home, you push the fear you have upon yourself. Well, I want these guys to have oversight. I want them to have that. Well, if you push out the group home status, then you tie my hands, you tie their hands. You put your own self in that position.
So, Matt, I've got a quick question. Can you get a group home license, or must you actually have I'm looking at, like you said, the county gives you the zoning and all of that. So can you kind of bypass that part, get the group home license that you need and then do that, or not?
No, the qualification to get the group home license in the state of Indiana, the first thing you have to do is approval on the county you're in.
Because it's not zoned for what does it need to be zoned for?
It just has to be the county has to approve the variance for me to allow it to be there.
Okay. So and that's where you're at.
if it's zoned agricultural, it's the same thing Mandela House went through. If it's zoned agricultural, right, or it's zoned agricultural estate, there's a list of things that fall automatically in that
Mhm.
zoning, right? Anything outside of the list of that zoning, you would go for a special exemption. And then the
Is it
county would say,
agricultural? Is that what it is?
yes,
Right.
we're going, the zoning change we're asking for, that we asked for at the beginning of the month, is agricultural estate. And that
And
would put
why are they not passing it or approving it?
your
Why did they
question.
tell you?
They, the first time we went for a use variance as agricultural, and they said that the legal requirement and the information that I gave wasn't enough. And pretty much their ruling wouldn't affect me running.
Yeah.
So I can do what I'm doing. I can rent the way I'm renting without it affecting, without that approval. So when we went back in, we went in to change the zoning for a special exemption. So right now, what we're waiting to do, since we restarted, I haven't been denied. I split the vote. So we'll go back the 9th.
Okay.
If they
tonight?
revote, no, the 9th.
Oh, okay. I have that on my calendar.
Right. If they vote for, we will get the zoning, and then we will go in for a use variance or a special exemption. And in that special exemption, then we have to meet qualifications like, does it obstruct the traffic flow? Does it cause undue living stress on the community? Does it violate the structural integrity of the ground that I'm on? Things of that nature. As long as I don't do any of those and I meet those legal requirements, then I can get the special exemption.
Am I understanding correctly, though, that right now, just as being a landlord, the people that are living with you, you're doing it, like you're doing life within the parameters that you can. And so really this is a lot of just bureaucratic paperwork that once it gets passed through, then you actually can expand the services that you can provide to the people that are there in a beneficial way. Am I understanding that right?
Yes. Yeah, it protects the guys from me.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
protects the community from the guys and the guys from the community.
Yeah.
So it's a benefit overall.
Yeah.
And in the end, what I'm hearing is that you're going to have access to more supports and services. It's going to be easier to access those so they can come into the home. You can get some additional funding for things that are going to help them be more successful, even after they leave. Is there some transition?
It would allow me to have, as far as funding more, it would be more like if I get food or clothing donations, things like that, right? It's easier for me to do that. If there's access to state funding for guys that want to get educated, for guys that are moving out, to help them find a place and furnish a place when they've graduated here and they're moving on to the next step of their life. It allows them to do that. As far as federal funding goes for me, I'm for profit. So there's no federal funding that I could take that I wouldn't have to give back. So there's no, like I said earlier, the most of the stuff that's done in the recovery community, it's done by the recovery community.
Yeah.
Every dime that's been put into this house, me and my wife had put into it ourselves. There was no reach out for help. It was, we did this, and then we brought these guys in to give them a second chance, because if I didn't have a house like this house wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
If I didn't have an opportunity to go into the home, I wouldn't have built relationships like I built in the recovery community that have lasted me 16 years.
Relationships are the most meaningful thing in your life. I mean, it can help you either way, right? Some of the bad relationships probably contributed to people getting or maybe staying in those situations. But
when I got married in sobriety, you have to get rid of all your old friends. Your whole life has to change. You as a person have to change. I didn't have 7 groups I didn't have 7 friends that I could rely on. I called to people in AA and talked to the guy that helped me get sober about it. And he said, you don't worry about that. You tell me where they get suits, we'll have 7 guys. 7 guys showed up.
I bet they
When we
did.
when we had our second child, I was working, we're just starting life. And I have to work. And my wife's at home pregnant, and we're moving into a new place. And we had to move within a certain time frame. And there was no way I could miss work to do that. I got a phone call at work. Don't worry about it. Go to your new place. Your furniture's moved. People that I was in that halfway house with did that for me.
Yeah, I believe it.
I'm not asking for the community in any way to go out of the way. And I'm not trying to hide anything from the community.
Yeah.
I've reached out through social media in any way I can, that if the community has any questions about this home and they would like to speak to me about it, I'm open. I don't want to hide this from nobody. I want these guys to have a safe place to go to lay their head down, to get up and go to work and learn skills like a bank account, how to pay bills, how to be accountable for responsibilities, how to take care of a home. It's real easy to put guys in a facility and then kick them out on the street. My guys have to do dishes. They have to clean. They have to mow a yard. They have to weed eat. They have to keep up with their mail.
Mm-hmm.
If they have a car, it has to be tagged and insured, which they have to pay. They have to have a job that they go to every day. If I bring guys in from a recovery center, a lot of times I bring guys in that don't have a dime. And until they get on their feet, we don't do rent until they get on their feet.
Yep.
I eat that cost. This is not about, if you want to make millions of dollars, don't do it in recovery.
Yeah.
That's not what this is about, So, as far as it goes back to the stigma of it, if you smoke cigarettes and you get lung cancer, people say, oh, that's awful. If somebody suffers from obesity and they develop diabetes, people say that's awful. If people have bad eating habits, living habits, and they develop a heart disease, that's awful. But if you get a drug addiction, it's your fault.
Yeah.
And
actually all of those are addictions. Every one of those things that you named is an addiction, and they're all things that are very stereotyped against.
Right.
And then one that we talked about earlier also, that I bet there's a huge percent of the population in recovery is with ADD. There's just a lot of underlying issues with some of these things, too. And just learning how to do things the right way, and also just learning how to understand you and how your brain works, and how addiction could feed into some, maybe medical or psychiatric diagnoses that people have as well. There's just so much to learn out there.